I'll call to order the Ascension Parish Council meeting for Thursday, April 4th. If everyone would please stand for the prayer given by Mr. Ken Dawson.
Let us pray. Father, as we come today, we give you glory and praise, O God, for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us. And Father, as we reflect today, O God, we reflect, O God, on what you've done and what you continue to do for this parish. The leadership that you placed this parish in, O God, for the state and even other areas of the country. Father, we accept that responsibility, O God, and we pray for your grace and wisdom to be able to guide and to move forward, O God, in wisdom and integrity. Father, today we pray for the Shaheen family, O God, the loss of his father-in-law. We pray that you watch over them, O God, and bless them. And as we move forward tonight, O God, we pray for your wisdom, O God, which only comes from you and passes the understanding of all men. Bless this country, bless the people of this nation, and Father, we protect that you protect all the issues, oh God, that's going on in the world today. We give you all the blessings, oh God, and pray for all the glory that you bestowed upon us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Our pledge tonight is going to be led by Mr. David Hebert. David is a location manager for Sony Pictures, and we are happy to have him in Donaldsonville, as the parish president will discuss later, for a location shoot.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David. Okay, item number 2 is the roll call. Madam Secretary, all members present with the exception of Councilman Turner, I believe is running late, and Councilman Lawson maybe as well. He's working tonight. Chair's additions.
Mr. Chairman, item A under consent agenda, we need to move that off there. I had a miscommunication and that was accidentally put there. I think that would probably need to go into general business.
Yes, sir. We will move item number 7A and take that off the consent agenda and put that as a separate item 7F.
That'd be 7 or 8.
We'll just pass the consent agenda with 7A through, or B through E. Okay. That's it for chair's additions. Public comment period. Reminder, if you wish to speak, now's your time to sign in. Presentations, proclamation to proclaim April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Ascension Parish. Mr. President.
Yes, I'd like to call Stephanie, Beth, and Rachel up, please, with Casa. Proclamation to proclaim April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Ascension Parish. Whereas child abuse and neglect are complex and ongoing problems in our society, affecting many children in our community. Whereas every child is entitled to be loved, cared for, nurtured, feel secure, and be free from verbal, sexual, emotional, and physical abuse and neglect. And whereas it is the responsibility of every adult who comes in contact with a child to protect that child's inalienable right to a safe and nurturing childhood. And whereas Ascension Parish has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to counter the problem of child maltreatment and to help parents obtain the assistance they need. And whereas our communities are stronger when all citizens become aware of child maltreatment prevention and become involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe and nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships among families, social service agencies, schools, religious and civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Whereas all citizens, common community agencies, faith organizations, and businesses will work to increase their efforts to support families. Now therefore it be proclaimed, I, Tommy Martin, as President of the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, to hear and to proclaim April 2013 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Ascension Parish. Stephanie, and I just want to say that if you've never visited with these folks, and they do a wonderful job. And Stephanie has been here for the past 5 years, I know, because I've been here 5 years, and she's made an effort to make sure that we're involved and become part of the community activities that go on here. So I just want to thank her and Casa for a job well done, and give her an opportunity to say a few words. Thank you.
Child Advocacy Services is the agency that we're with, and we've been serving Ascension Parish since 2002. In that time, there have been a number of kids who we've served who have been victims of abuse and neglect. If you go out in front of City Hall right now, you'll see 101 stakes that represent every child we've served through our CASA, our Court-Appointed Special Advocate Program, just last year. That's a lot, just in 1 year. There have been hundreds since we've been here in 2002, and it's community members that do the work to make sure that these children have a voice in court. So we just ask that you spend the month of April just thinking about and promoting to people the idea of taking a stand against child abuse in Ascension Parish, as we do every day, and our volunteers do every day. We have, just to give you an example of what one of our volunteers have done, when a child came into foster care because they were brutally beaten by their father, there was initially not any quick resolve to that situation, but because the volunteer was involved, the father became engaged in wanting to correct the action that had been done for that child to suffer. And because the volunteer created that relationship, the child was able to return home, no repercussions for anything that would happen if that child did not obey the rules, because the father had learned what he needed to do, the proper way to parent that child. And it's because volunteers are involved, because the state agencies are involved in making sure that those kids are safe. So please take a moment this month if you want to pass by those stakes, if you just want to become a part of what it is that we do, just feel free to contact us. One way for everybody to get involved, April 13th, not this coming Saturday, but the following, we have a blue run and 1 mile family walk and 5K race, where we are taking a stand against child abuse, and community members are coming together so that we can show the parish that we are against child abuse, and we want to make sure that we represent all of the children that we serve and all the children that unfortunately we'll have to serve in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Parish President's Report.
I don't think Senator Brown made it. He had asked to be on the agenda to discuss some upcoming legislative issues, but he's not here. But I would like to, again, introduce David to come on up with Sony Pictures and tell us a little bit about what's going on here in Donaldsonville and the movie that they are producing, and who's going to be the stars and all this good stuff. And I think it's exciting. I've been watching on TV. They've been doing some filming in St. Francisville, I think in Port Allen, and coming to DeVille sometimes in May. So David, would you give us an update?
Thank you very much. Just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone for allowing Sony Pictures to come into the parish and film the mini-series Bonnie and Clyde, which we'll be doing in mid to early May. We'll be prepping, but we'll be here throughout the month getting ready. I wanted to thank the people of Ascension Parish, Tommy, of course, for excuse me, for allowing us to come in to the parish, and he was a big help. Appreciate your help and support of the film industry. Thank you.
Thank you. hopefully we can continue the trend. I've taken it upon myself to create a film committee, and they are going to gather a lot of information, and then we're going to come before the council and ask you to create a film commission. So basically what we're going to do is do some legwork. We're going to visit with Celtic Studios, and we're going to go around the parish, different parishes, and look at what they do. And from there, probably have to draft an ordinance to the effect of when a film comes into our parish, what would be expected. So hopefully this is the beginning. We're going to do some legwork, and then we're going to get back to the council to actually create a commission. So I'm going to ask you to do that. So, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Hebert, certainly I want to second that. We appreciate you and your firm's decision to shoot here. We're certainly excited about that. And Mr. President, I'm glad to hear about the plans for a film commission too. I think that's perfect timing for Ascension Parish in light of all the film industry activity going on. So thank you. Number 7 is the consent agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to move consent agenda items B, C, D, and E.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Cazzo. Any objection? Consent agenda is adopted. Item 7F is the RFQ for wastewater utility management program. Utilities Chairman Benny Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The parish put out an RFQ for quotes for developing information based on parish sewer, based on a P16 area in the parish, and based on also on funding of around the $18 million SRF loan. We recently, we put together an engineering selection committee. The results of that engineering selection committee, the top 3 was CSRS, number 1, GSA, number 2, SJB, number 3. And that's been a history in the past with the engineering selection committees. They bring the top 3 to the council. I think everyone received the information on that within the last few weeks. Also, the Utilities Committee had a meeting last night and had presentations by 5 of the 6 companies that submitted to the RFQ on their proposals for that RFQ. Motion was made and unanimously adopted to select GSA or present to the council as a recommendation of GSA to be appointed to handle the RFQ. We would like for a selection of one for the RFQ for tonight.
Okay, the chair would entertain motions from the floor.
I'd like to make the motion to accept GSA as a council.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Kluwat.
Second.
And a second by Councilman Satterley for GSA. Any discussion? Councilwoman Cazzo?
Yes, just one question for certain, and I may have to ask the parish president's permission to have Ms. Martha address this group. I have one question that just for clarification, because I may take Martha to answer that, perhaps. Certainly, you're welcome to answer it too. But she's the one that typically handles all grant money and those kind of things. My question is, should we have federal dollars that needed to be expended down the road in this project? Does the selection now of the candidate that was not number 1, does that affect our ability to handle federal dollars going forward?
No, because that would probably be, in fact, it will be a separate proposal that would come out. This is actually a proposal, and there's a scope in it to develop the P16 area, and it's going to be utilizing 100% parish money. So, no, but in the future, if we go after federal monies for anything, yes, we will have to follow the guidelines, and the selection committee makes a selection, then you would have to follow and choose the number 1 firm. So it's a little complicated, but the RFQ that we put out doesn't involve any federal funds at all. If we go any further, you're going to have to, again, go through a selection process.
Does just as a follow-up, the loan money, is that in any way tied to those guidelines?
I don't, this, again, I think when you get the loan money, you're going to probably go through another selection process.
Okay,
This money is, the scope does not include that $20 million.
just want to clarify.
But I mean, I'm just answering it
Sure.
to the best of my ability here, but no.
I appreciate that.
If we do, you'll have to go through another process, I would think.
And second question, if I may. Having created this framework for the parish, would the firm selected for that work today be precluded from participation in engineering work in the future on these projects because they have perhaps garnered some unfair advantage in the process of determining the course of the program?
Well, I think that would certainly be a council call. I think that, but I don't know how you could preclude someone from bidding on a project unless you would make it specific that if you do this project, you won't be able to bid, or you will. But to be fair, if to do that, that should have been put in RFQ.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm just
Yeah, so
trying to satisfy my curiosity about
there's
how
no
this will work.
rule to say that they would be precluded from being able to bid unless the council would require that.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
at that point, as I said, if the federal funds kick in and the loan kicks in, you would have to go through the process again with the engineering selection committee, and then you would have to, at that point, take number one. But I don't think you could stop that firm from bidding.
And I want to clarify, I don't have any objection to who was selected at all. I
That's
just,
correct,
I don't,
Mr.
I want to make
Parish.
sure,
I would agree with that.
I just want to make sure we don't have an outstanding firm for the future that's unable to participate.
Right.
So I understand your answer to be, we would have to set that rule. And you concur, Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, I agree. I think if you wanted to, right now, this is a limited scope. Doesn't limit or exclude anybody from going any further, if whatever the next process may be. If you seek federal funds, obviously you have to comply with the federal grant process, but at this point in time, you're not at that stage.
Yeah, I'm fine then. Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate you.
Okay, other discussion? Councilman Shakespeare?
Yes, I wasn't able to make the meeting last night, so I was just curious, and it might be directed to Councilman Johnson, as to exactly what the scope is on this RFQ here. Explain that.
The scope of the RFQ is to, Parish President, Mr. Dawson, correct me where I may be off a little bit, is to take the P16 area, and we're going to apply some after the meeting we had a couple weeks back at the utilities talking about some things, is to develop the P16 area out as to a relative cost of what it would take to sewer that area, the modified area, as well as looking at potential revenue sources for funding sewer, as well as answers legal questions around sewer for the east side of the parish, and how we're going to basically come up with a potential framework for what a plan that we can put forward to the public about sewer for the future and how we're going to do it. And that's basically what this RFQ is going to be about. Like Parish President said, if once we develop this part of it, we can then go out, if we can secure the funding for that, to bring in a management team that would help us implement any kind of plan that we come up with and help us to complete the rest of the plan, but that's further down the line.
So basically, we're doing a specific plan for the 42, 73, and Airline Highway, and a general plan for the rest of the East Bank, general proposal for how we should follow.
The P16 area is basically an area between the interstate and Airline Highway in the Prairieville area. And the reason we selected that area first is obviously because we're putting a line down there with the Highway 73 widening project. The modification, or what we're deeming as the modified P16 area, is that a pipe running from the parish line on Airline Highway 273, which we would utilize to connect the 42 pipe that's eventually going to go in for that widening project, 273. And then from there, also needing a plant to process the waste for the amount of waste that would be generated somewhere in the area of the river, to run another trunk line from that plant down 73 to tie into the existing pipe around the interstate at 73. And that's what the modified P16 area. The P16 area itself is strictly a residential,
Okay.
commercial area between the interstate and the airline highway, the little pie-shaped area. From there, what we're hoping to be able to do is come up with a fairly close estimated cost on what it's going to take to sewer that area. And from there, if you look, I'm not sure what the square mileage is of that area. We hope to be able to take that and extrapolate that out to what it would take for the similar areas of the parish to come up with an overall cost for sewer, and then pair that up with the revenue estimates on the different sources of revenue to figure out a time frame for how long it would take us to do sewer, and whether or not we would want to go from that point to do some type of private-public partnership, or whether we want to do it on our own, and also give us the ability to get to the public with some specific information on sewer and get some feedback from them as to what they would tolerate as far as revenue to help pay for it. In the meetings that we've had so far, I think that's kind of the plan that we need to go for, and progress this thing forward to get to the next step to where we have something concrete that we can put to the public to get some show of support or not.
And a time frame for general?
This particular one, we're looking to get something back by the first of next month. We're going to give them about a 4-week time frame to get us the information. We feel that in conversation that we've had with folks, the legal questions are probably going to take the longest time to get some kind of answer to. The revenue sources are, those sources probably could be within a week or so of getting exactly, what a mill would generate in this area, what a sales tax would generate, what a parcel fee would generate, those type, and then if there's any other type of revenue, those are the ones we discussed, would generate from that, and actually laying out an estimated cost of what it would take to sewer that, and from what I've been told, in a week and a half to 2 weeks, that could be done. So we feel a 4-week time frame would be plenty enough time to get us some information where we can decide a path forward on what we want to do.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Quick question.
Other discussion, Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, what is the cost for just this scope of work that we're asking for? Do we have a?
100,000.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I have a motion and a second for GSA. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item number 8 is an amendment to Evans Graves contract for Ascension Parish Sewer Program Engineering Services Project to clarify Task 1 elements, add Task 1A to add right-of-way acquisition services to project scope, and clarify parish responsibilities in Task 3 at a total cost of not to exceed $531,058 upon approval by the Louisiana Office of Community Development. Mr. Laurie, would you give us the background on this, please?
Yeah, we're here to ask for this amendment to their existing contract. Task 1 change is really clarification of the wording. Task 1A is the big part here. That's the $164,000. That's to have them go and do the right-of-way acquisition services. It wasn't included in the original scope, but as the design developed, we found that we weren't going to be able to remain entirely within the existing right-of-way, and then we identified the lift station locations that we had to acquire property for, and so that's what that element is.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Johnson. Discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. Item number 9 is an update on the renovation of the Gonzales Senior Center and additional space. Mr. President, or Mr. David Mujo, or Ms. Shake Snyder.
Have Ms. Darlene come up and explain, and then David to come up and tell us what the project's going to entail, so get an idea. But it's going to expand the senior citizen center in Gonzales.
Good evening. I'm interested in renovating and adding on to the Gonzales Senior Center. The 1972 side of the building is in desperate need of renovation, and the addition we added in 2003 is now too small due to the number of programs that we have going on at the center at the current time, and we're looking towards the future with the baby boomers coming of age and increasing our services further.
Good evening, council. Just to go over a few of the details, I'll be brief. We're looking at adding approximately 970 square feet. These will be two separate areas. One would be for staff offices and restrooms. The other would be for additional activity space. We're looking at renovating 8,780 square feet of the existing building, and the primary renovations are going to be painting, floor replacement, ceiling replacements, modernizing the lighting fixtures, adding some data, and other miscellaneous. We're also, on the exterior, looking at adding 30 parking spaces and improving some drainage. Any questions on the details of the renovation?
Yeah, David, what's the total square footage of that building?
Total square footage is a little bit over the 8780. There's a few spaces that we're not renovating. There's some mechanical rooms, janitor's closets, and storage areas. It looks like they're probably about another 800,000 square feet. So the existing building is 9,500 to 10,000 square feet.
I just want everybody to understand how big the building is and that it definitely needs it, and I think it's a good project.
Also said that they generated their own funds.
Yes,
Right.
they do. Yes, they do.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just real
Councilman
quick,
Labor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. David, I want to appreciate you taking on the task of getting everything, the drawings and everything together. Used to have Mr. Henry Chauvin that took care of everything, but I know he's tied up. But thank you for coming in and helping Ms. Darlene get everything situated. And I mean, it's a project that's well worth it. I've been involved with Council on Aging now for 13 years. And the center, when she mentioned that they have outgrown it, we offer every type of exercise. It's amazing out there what they're doing with all of our seniors, and appreciate you taking it on.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to work for y'all.
Okay. All right, thank you. We will move on to item number 10, which is property condemnation of 16019 Aikens Road. Mr. Bourgeois.
Mr. Chairman and council, thank you for allowing me today to come to you and seek advice on a condemnation proceeding. This is at the 16019 Aikens Road, and the timeline exceeded about 6.5 months in taking care of a totally destroyed home by the fire, which we have complaints and patiently and diplomacy have it working. So we come to you tonight for further advice to how to proceed.
That's my motion to proceed with condemnation.
Motion by Councilman Johnson
I
to
second.
proceed with condemnation. I had a second by, sorry, I didn't hear. Councilman Joseph?
Councilman, you're going to need to also authorize the payment of a curator. I did a little title work on this thing. It's a succession property. There's a ton of heirs.
Yeah,
So you gotta have a curator, you gotta
the
notify
homeowner
them
passed
all.
away right before the house caught on fire, and I don't know that they did succession or anything on it.
They didn't, but I know there's a bunch of
heirs.
heirs. I kind of did a
Yeah.
little title work on it before it came up, and we need a curator appointed to notify all the
Make that
heirs.
part of the, I'm in the motion, makes that so.
We'll add that as part of the motion as an amendment to add a curator.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Joseph. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Item number 11 is zoning review ID 2294.13, 1.34 acre lot of Ruby Ori property for Ruby Ori to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium intensity residential RM to mixed use quarter MU. The zoning commission has recommended denial of the rezone. Gentlemen, this is for review only, and this will be coming back to us.
Move to not introduce.
we can't do that right now. We'll do that at the next one when it comes back to us. This is just for review. But the next time it will come up as an introduction, and at that time we can do an introduction, deny the introduction. Okay, item 12 is an introduction of an ordinance to declare surplus and authorize the sale and/or transfer of miscellaneous movable equipment.
So moved.
I have a motion to introduce by Councilman Johnson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any objection to the introduction of the ordinance? Hearing none, ordinance is introduced. Item 13 is an ordinance SR 13-2, revisions to the subdivision regulations in the Unified Land Development Code pertaining to family partitions. Mr. Parrington.
The purpose of the ordinance is to revise the language to the subdivision code to address several issues that have come up regarding family partition. Whereas Ascension Parish is a local government of subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution 1974, and whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body within the jurisdiction, Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish, and whereas the code was incorporated as Appendix 4 of the Parish Unified Land Development Code adopted December 17, 2009, be it ordained that the Ascension Parish governing authority that Section 1740.26 of the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code is hereby amended as follows. The changes adopted are as follows. See Exhibit A attached. In the event any portion of this ordinance is held to be invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction, over such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent, and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. The effective date of this ordinance shall be as permitted by law. The attachments are Exhibit 1. The ordinance having been submitted to the vote.
Okay, Chair would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat. Second by Councilman Johnson. Anyone wishing to speak?
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Satterley. Second. Second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Need a motion to move the ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to move the ordinance with the stipulation on Exhibit 1, Section B1, that we remove the verbiage that says sewer treatment plant.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion to adopt the ordinance with making the change of section, what is it, 1B? I want to make sure we get it right. What section is it?
B1.
B1, that we
Yeah,
remove
Exhibit
the
1,
words
Section B1.
sewer plant,
Remove the verbiage sewer treatment plant.
sewer treatment plant, okay?
So I could give some explanation on that.
Okay, we'll have a motion and a second discussion. Councilman Kluwat.
Yeah, just basically looking at it, that the verbiage in there is that the way it's written, it has MODAD or sewer treatment plant. And in that particular section, we've already talked to Ricky, and that I think Dempsey talked to him, and it's just verbiage that came up. I just don't want it to be a sticking point later on. So if anybody's rep, we can discuss it.
I'd like to find it first, so I can read it myself.
All right.
Other discussion? Councilman Shakespeare?
What, Ricky, what is the effect of this? I mean, give us an answer. Y'all discuss
They
it.
don't have the attachment on this.
Okay, so that section currently reads, any subdivision under this part containing more than 8 lots, where the lots are smaller than 1 acre, are required to have a community sewer collection and treatment system. So we want to strike that requirement that if you are a family partition of 20 or 30 lots, that you do not need a sewer plant, you can continue to have MODADs.
Right. Correct.
That's over 1 acre.
That's 1
This
acre
says
of
smaller
that.
than 1 acre.
So each lot is more than 1 acre?
No, smaller than 1 acre.
Smaller than 1 acre. So you can make a subdivision now with 30 lots and not have a sewer
This is
plant?
not a subdivision, it's family partition.
I understand.
Yeah, but we're,
They're all subdivisions. You know, I'm just,
We don't approve sewer plants in the parish, so if that family partition went to the DHH, it would be under their jurisdiction whether or not
That's their
they needed to
business.
do a community sewer treatment plant, or if they could continue to do MODADs on all of those lots.
and I would feel a lot more comfortable with requirement, you know, to do make the verbiage where they have the MODAD which is what we have, or if there were a requirement from the AHH, that would be, that they would meet that requirement. And that keeps us out of the health issues. If,
We in the health issue.
I understand that, but if it's more than 8 lots, they ought to get a review by the Department of Health and follow those guidelines. If it's more than 8 lots, it's not your typical family petition. I don't know of anybody in Ascension Parish now lately that has more than 8 kids right now, so we're not hurting anyone that wants to subdivide their property within their family. That's my only concern, that we just stay within the health issues of this parish.
Okay, Councilman Kluat?
Yeah, Councilman Shakes and I don't disagree with you. You know, personally, you and I think, Ty, we come from families of big families. But, that within that, if you're worried about a 20-member family or a 30-member family, I think that the process of the family petition itself goes through several governing bodies and back and also for approval. And there's a watchdog over that. If you're worried about a developer making a 30-track family petition, we have other resources within the parish and committees and channels that I don't think you're going to see a 30 or 20-member family petition come in front of you.
Well,
especially in this day and time.
And the problem that has happened consistently in the past is that certain people have used the guise of a family petition in this parish to create subdivisions without following the guidelines of subdivisions. And that's a fact. We can go over many of them. And I just think that anyone that wants to do a family petition and stick within their family is absolutely no problem. That's going to be less than 8 lots. If they go more than 8 lots, they're creating a subdivision. And if they're creating a subdivision, and people use this family petition as an excuse to not follow the guidelines everybody else has to follow. And they call it a family petition. They divide it up, they get it approved, and they get on a certified road, and before the ink is dry, they start selling lots. And they're circumventing, and we're creating problems. And so, if they're going to, if we separate it into more than 8 lots and less than 8 lots, we are protecting the people in this parish that wants to do a family petition, and they need protection, and we want to assure them that they're being allowed to do family petitions. Anyone that creates subdivisions before or after these family petitions needs to follow guidelines like everyone else, and when it comes to our health issues. And so I don't think we should budge on that.
Mr. President, you want to speak?
I think the reason that you have a limit of 8 lots in here, it's been in there forever, that, you know, I can give my 3 kids 3 lots, and I can go down to the next section and give them 3 more lots, each another lot, and I can keep on doing that until, but this says if you get greater than 8, then you have to get a letter from the public health, from the health unit to say that that's okay. So, exactly. But you don't have to have a big family to keep creating a family petition. Right. If you just keep giving your 2 or 3 or 4 kids a lot here, a lot there, a lot here, and then all of a sudden you got a subdivision. So that's how people get around it, and that's what happens. I just think that if it's going to be separated into more 8 lots, then we should have a system to deal with. Because we're looking at sewer now, sanitary sewer, and if we create 30 new septic tanks, we're going to have a problem. But I think that you can protect it up to a certain amount, but I mean, I think you have to put a number on it. You have to cap it.
I don't have a problem with a number.
Huh?
I don't have a problem with a number. I got a problem with the interpretation that at some point somebody's going to require a sewer treatment plant. Exactly. Okay? For a family petition, a small family petition. All right?
Okay. Councilman.
We make the laws sometimes to try to stop the criminals. But we need to develop stuff to try to help the good people, because they far outweigh the numbers of the bad.
Okay, Councilman Johnson.
I'm kind of looking at this from the same middle of the road a little bit differently in dealing what we have been dealing with sewer for the last 18 months or so, even further back than that. I have a serious concern in trying to look over this right now and make a decision as to whether or not we're going to go ahead with the change in this wording, when, while I do understand it may be a hardship for a person doing a family partition to have to go in and put some kind of regional treatment system in, I think you need to look at it as well from a broader spectrum of how does that development impact the rest of the parish. While I understand what Councilman Shakespeare is talking about and Councilman Cluett have been talking about back and forth, I think we can do some things with that within this to protect the parish and the rest of the citizens from folks that would go out there and violate the basic privilege of what a family partition would do for you or allow you to do within the development code. But unfortunately, sometimes you have to go a little bit over that in order to protect yourselves. That would lend a little bit of harm to people who are, like Councilman Cluett would allude to, aren't going to try to do that. I'd like to take a little bit more time to look at this. I'm not opposed to what we're proposing, but I'm not willing to support it tonight with not having a little bit better understanding or being able to clarify it a little bit better than what we have. I don't know if it'd be the wishes of the council to delay this until another meeting to where we can have some time to look at it and come up with some definite numbers, whether it's a 8-lot partition or something along those lines, but just to arbitrarily take that out of there, that they would have to put in a treatment system that would wind up costing the parish and the citizens more money later on to have to run a trunk line down the road as opposed to doing something else. I just like time to study it. That's kind of where I'm coming from with that question.
Okay. Councilman Todd Lambert?
Yeah. And like Randy said, we are from a big family, but out of the big family, you're not going to see 8 family partitions coming to you. Very few you're going to see 8 family partitions come up. So I'm kind of for this because there's a loophole right there. We not only have some subdivisions that develop family partitions, but we end up having to take in some roads. Several roads had to be taken in because a family partition formed, and then it grew to a development of 20 or 30 homes, and it was all developed by a family partition. Well, then the parish ended up having to take it in because the road was so unsafe, and we had to take in 2 or 3 recently in the last probably 6 years. So I think this would help them have to go through more or less a subdivision regulation if they went more than 8 lots. And I'm in for leaving this in the system, in this ordinance, and I'd make a substitute motion to leave it like is.
Okay, I have a substitute motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to adopt it as written.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Cazzo. I have discussion. Councilman Joseph.
Rick? Currently, the ordinance is basically saying less than, 8-lot less than current. What is the less than is? A half acre, a quarter of an acre?
Anything less than 1.
Okay, so just to be clear, the code today says exactly what's in front of you. We did not change that with this amendment, okay? All we changed was that every family partition in the code today is required to go get a letter from DHH before the family partition can be approved. Well, DHH no longer responds to our request for a letter. So I was simply removing that requirement from the code for all family partitions except the ones that have more than 8 lots. Okay? So the code today is still what's being moved. And so what this says is, if your family partition has more than 8 lots, and those lots are smaller than an acre, you've got to get a letter from DHH that says either you can use MODADs or you need a community sewer treatment system. That's what the code says today. We're just requiring it now for only those with more than 8 lots to get a letter.
I think that's fair.
Okay. Councilman Satterley.
Yeah, Rick, I just have a question. If they're not responding to the lesser situation, what's going to make them respond to when you get to 8? I'm confused.
I am on board with the idea that family partitions are not this huge burden on this parish. They just aren't. A major subdivision comes along and does the damage that 4 years worth of family partitions does. So family partitions aren't this huge burden on the parish, okay? I don't think that there's a ton of families out there that are going to do an 8-lot family partition, and I don't think that if they do it, I think they're going to be a massive acreage, and I think they're going to be bigger than 1 acre. So you're talking about a very, very minute number of property owners that would do an 8 or more lot family partition under an acre. I think we could hold DHH's feet to the fire and say, we need a letter. And I believe 99.9% of the time that letter is going to say they can use MODADs. Because as long as the lot meets a 16,000 square foot criteria, they're going to allow them to do a MODAD.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Big deal.
Councilman Cluett.
Yeah, just real quick, my only safeguard here, what I'm trying to put is the fact that if you do get an 8, say you get a 6, whatever. It's just the build out on it is not always like you selling lots in a subdivision. Because one person in the family may be ready to build a house. The next one, it may be 15 years. You know what I'm saying? And you put a burden on the whole piece of land, that type of just.
Yes, sir.
Gets screwed.
The last line in that section is the line that if I was a shady person, that I would be concerned with. Because it says, this provision shall apply if subsequent divisions of lands among family members increase the number of lots to 8 lots or greater. What that allows us to do is look at those lots and say, hey, you did 4 in 2004, you did 3 in 2010, now you're doing 3 more, you've exceeded those 8 lots via a family partition process, you need to go get a letter from DHH. But we also have to look at those 4 and those 3 to see if they were under an acre. If they were more, they don't qualify. But basically, it's giving us a little bit of authority to say, hey, you need another letter from DHH that simply states you don't have to do a community sewer for this family partition subdivision.
Councilman Johnson.
I guess, Ricky, under that circumstance, though, what protections do we have within the parish that protects you from somebody like what the person that Councilman Shanksnyder brought up, that turns around and develops this subdivision out of family partitions, and then we're stuck because I would somewhat disagree with you that maybe right now they're not that big of an impact, but when it comes to future fire ratings and getting them lower, you're going to have enough areas of the parish with family partitions that don't have fire protection with lines down with fire hydrants, or when it comes to the cost of doing sewer in areas that are family partitions that aren't roads or maybe taken into the parish system, that you're going to be required to put money into putting the line down that street. So, you know, I don't know that it may be that big of an impact today, but I think in the future it could have a bigger impact. And so my concern with it is what protections do we have to keep that from happening? Because what are the chances if somebody comes up today and does this type of partition like what you just described, and 5 or 6 years from now they come back and do another one, who's going to remember? Are the people going to be around that's going to show back, so well, you went and divided that into a 3 lot, and now you're doing to a 4 or 5, and you're getting into this area of the 8. I don't know that we got good enough records to make that happen and make it go back and for us to review it and say, okay, yeah, we are kicking this. Whether they're not, you know, whether the lots are under 8, you know, under an acre or not, you know, what kind of protections do we have for the rest of the community that says, how are we going to track this?
The only protection you could have is eliminate the ability to create lots on substandard roads. Because until you eliminate the ability to create a lot on a gravel road, you can't stop the family partitions from happening. You just can't. Once a lot is legally created, we cannot control who buys it or builds on it.
Councilman Vincent Lamb.
And look, this is something close to me also. Ricky, I want to thank you for explaining that the way you brought it out. But, you know, this is something that you've been working with planning and zoning hey, there's a lot of stuff in here I had to eat, and I'm living with it. This right here is something minute, is what I'm looking at, and I just want to clear it up. I don't think it should be in there. As far as keeping records, we have records back years, and we know who's in violation, and we know how to track that. If these people get out of line, we're not accepting roads into the parish now. We just won't accept a road. But this is just a little safeguard, and I'm looking out for the families that's left, and it's minute. So I'm going to support Councilman Kluwat.
Other discussion? Okay, I have a substitute motion on the floor that we will vote on first. That was by Councilman Todd Lambert to adopt the ordinance as written. The original by Councilman Kluwat and second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert was to remove the word sewer treatment plant from section B1. So we will vote on the substitute motion first. A vote yes is for the substitute motion as is. Cinnamon, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Kazo.
Yes.
Councilman Kluwat.
No.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert.
No.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Councilman Satterley.
Yes.
Councilman Shake Snyder.
Yes.
Councilman Turner.
Yes.
The yeas have it, and the substitute motion is adopted. We will move on to item number 16, SR 13-3, revisions to Appendix 12 of the Unified Land Development Code pertaining to fees. Mr. Parrington.
The purpose of this ordinance is to revise and add fees to the Unified Land Development Code, whereas Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution 1974, whereas the Parish of Ascension is the governing and responsible body within its jurisdiction. Whereas Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of this parish. Whereas the code was incorporated in Appendix 7 of the Parish Unified Land Development Code adopted December 17, 2009. Be it ordained the Ascension Parish governing authority in Appendix 7 of the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code is hereby amended as follows. These changes are adopted as follows. Exhibit 1 attached, and the planning and development is authorized to increase fees for the certified mail-outs or recordation as necessary when the United States Post Office or the clerk of court revise their fees, but in no instance shall the fee be more than 10% of the actual cost. In the event of any portion of this ordinance is held to be invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. This ordinance shall be in full effect and as permitted by law. Attachments are Exhibit 1. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. The vote was thereon as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Kluwat.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Satterley. Need a motion to move the ordinance.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Johnson. Discussion. Objection. Hearing none, ordinance is adopted. Item number 18, no. 19, excuse me, thank you. MST 13-5, addition of the major street plan to the Unified Land Development Code as Appendix 13. Mr. Parrington.
The purpose of this ordinance is to adopt the major street plan by Ascension Parish and to amend the Unified Land Development Code to create Article 13, major street plan, to remove any conflicts within the Unified Land Development Code. Whereas the Ascension Parish is a local government subdivision as defined by Article 6, Section 44 of the Louisiana Constitution of 1974. Whereas the parish is the governing and responsible body within its jurisdiction. Article 6 of the Home Rule Charter of Ascension Parish adopted May 4, 1993 identifies the process and manner in which to adopt ordinances regulating the lands of the parish. The Parish Council adopts the major street plan, see Exhibit A, as Appendix 13 of the Unified Development Code, and be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Governing Authority that the Ascension Parish Unified Land Development Code is amended by, to, and add Appendix 13 Major Street Plan as attached, In the event any portion of this ordinance is held invalid or unconstitutional for any reason by any court of competent jurisdiction over it, such portion shall be deemed separate, distinct, and independent provision and shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of the ordinance. The effect of the ordinance shall be in full effect as permitted by law. The exhibits or the major street plan attachments. The ordinance have been submitted to a vote. The vote was thereon as follows.
Motion to open the public hearing by Councilman Johnson.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Motion to close.
Motion closed by Councilman Satterley.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Cazo. Need a motion to move the ordinance?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Turner, second by
Second.
Councilwoman Cazo. Mr. Miller, would you please explain the amendment?
There's a couple of proposed amendments we'd like to do, and that would be to, it was forwarded at the Planning Commission like that, and that was to take LA 621 and take it from a suburban arterial to an urban arterial, and to take Roddy Road and change the classification from a rural collector to an urban collector. Both of those came out of all the public meetings. We just failed to put it into include the attachment with the original ordinance. So that's all that's really changing is the map that would change LA 621 again from a suburban arterial to a urban arterial, and Roddy Road from a rural collector to an urban collector.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilwoman Cazo and a second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert to amend the motion as stated by Ray Miller for LA 621 from a suburban arterial to an urban arterial, and Roddy Road from a rural collector to an urban collector. Discussion. Councilman Johnson.
So those designations, what does that mean to the average person?
What it means, it has now, those roadways have a right-of-way, that's the main thing, a right-of-way cross-section tied to them, so it'll fit into the development code and development process. So you'll have a specific right-of-way width. If we move forward with this as further, then we also have some different cross-sections that we could apply and put into the development code as well. An urban arterial may have 4 lanes, a divided median, curb and gutter, where a suburban arterial may have open ditch, 2 lanes, different nuances with each cross-section. That's what the major street plan does. The main thing is it preserves the right-of-way, which is not just for roads, it's also for drainage and other utilities. That's the main purpose, not to mention the cross-sections and definitions of those roads. It also makes it available for different levels of funding. One example is Roddy Road. Just by changing that, we just got through the President's office, we submitted a letter to change the classification with the Department of Transportation, and it's now eligible for funding, and we're going to be submitting an application to upgrade another section of Roddy Road through this process. So.
Does that have anything to do with the setbacks as well, or is that part of a different function?
Setbacks will be changed accordingly, I guess. I don't think the setbacks that I'm aware of will change that. They'll still be from the edge of the right-of-way.
Okay.
Councilman Flatt.
Yeah, Ray, I just want to thank y'all. The designations really does a good job, and I know it's going to take a while for everybody to figure out what all they mean, but, you know, with it being posted, it gives a good standard for the roads and for the future, what we plan on doing with those cars.
There was a lot of staff work that went into it before I got here, so I'm just following up on it. So.
Okay. Any other discussion? Is there any objection to the amended motion? Hearing none, that ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Ray. I would like to thank Sergeant Richard Bowie for being here tonight. Thank you, sir. Councilman Lambert?
Motion to adjourn, Mr.
Motion to
Chairman.
adjourn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Fluad. We are adjourned.